Good morning, everyone, and welcome to NYSE Live. I'm Kristen Scholler here in studio at the stock exchange. We do see the stock market recovering this week after President Donald Trump said the war in Iran could finish, quote, very soon, end quote. The major U.S. indices are a little changed in extended trading this morning, just about 30 minutes from the open after the S&P rose 0.8% yesterday. ICE Brent crude oil, meanwhile, is near about $90 a barrel after it had surpassed $100 a barrel early on Monday. Well, Trump told a reporter that the U.S. is, quote, very far, end quote, ahead of his previously provided time frame of a 4 to 5 week conflict. He added that he's, quote, thinking about, end quote, taking over the Strait of Hormuz. We'll continue to follow the action directly above the trading floor and later on down there on the floor of the New York Stock Exchange. Let's take a look at what else is on tap this hour. NYSE-listed multi-industry manufacturing firm AT&T CEO and president is going to join me to share more about how a recent acquisition of XBX Flow is powering the next phase of growth and innovation. Plus, Paris Hilton was at the New York Stock Exchange yesterday to ring the closing bell in recognition of International Women's Day. Hear what she said in the boardroom about supporting female-owned small businesses. Then at 9:30 a.m. Eastern, AT&T CEO and Chairman John Stankey is going to ring the opening bell to mark the 150 years since the first telephone call. I'm going to speak with AT&T leadership about its new $250 billion investment in communications infrastructure. First, though, the NFIB recently released its February Small Business Optimism Index, which reported higher sales and less uncertainty last month. Joining me now with more is Holly Wade. She's Executive Director of NFIB Research Center. Holly, great to see you this morning. Thanks for joining.
Thank you.
What were your takeaways from this report?
So in the latest report in February, our February data in surveying small business owners, we did see the second month of deterioration of optimism. So it ticked down 0.5 point. And we're edging closer to that 52-year average of 98. So this month or last month in February, we saw a deterioration in sales expectations. So fewer small business owners are expecting sales to improve over the next quarter. And that was the dominant kind of heavy hitter in the components within the index that we saw a decline. And so, fewer small business owners are optimistic about sales expectations, at least in the short term. And, but, everything outside of that seemed to be fairly stable. So that was a good sign.
What were some of the factors that caused them to respond in the way that they did during this survey?
So some of the factors, this was before the survey was conducted, before the oil spike in costs, gasoline spike. So that was largely not a factor in their sentiment this last month. But, if you were feeling optimistic about business conditions moving forward, a number of them are still feeling inflation pressures, regulatory pressures, tax pressures. But when looking at the employment situation, compensation pressures are still a really significant challenge for many small business owners. And last month, we saw a number of comments in our comments section related to health insurance costs. So health insurance costs are still an issue for many small business owners, and in trying to mitigate kind of compensation pressures and in attracting applicants for those still many open positions in certain industries. And, that's really one of the major pain points for a lot of small business owners in operating their firm.
Yeah, of course, we'll get several reads on inflation this week, the Consumer Price Index tomorrow, which could indicate some of those service costs perhaps related to inflation for consumers, as well as the Personal Consumption Expenditures Index, the Fed's preferred inflation gauge a little bit later during the week. Just want to touch base, Holly, obviously, things have changed. There's now a conflict, an escalated conflict in the Middle East, even though the president did indicate yesterday that it could end sooner than previously expected. Historically, how has that impacted the sentiment of small business owners?
Yeah, so gasoline prices for many small business owners is a significant input cost in operating their firm. So in previous times of higher gasoline prices, oil spikes, we have seen a deterioration in small business owners feeling that business conditions are supportive. Inflation pressures will, increase for many of them in trying to absorb those higher energy costs. And for some of them that either have large fleets or deliveries, or that's one of their biggest input costs, they're going to have to try and figure out how to absorb those higher prices into their business. And that's been one of the areas of concern for many small business owners over the last 4 years.
In terms of where we go from here, that'll be in focus, but are there any seasonals at play? Do we historically see sentiment trend in one direction around this time of year?
So we do seasonally adjust our data, so that should largely be taken care of. One other area that we did see some deterioration is investment in their business. So whether that is they're holding on to more cash in light of uncertainty related to business conditions, or some inflation pressures that they're still feeling or anticipating. And some of them might be, kind of holding off and staying on the sidelines, waiting for possibly lower interest rates for borrowing costs in those opportunities that they might have, in the future in investing in their business.
Mm-hmm. I did see, you mentioned obviously their sales sentiment improved and labor quality seemed to improve as well. What about labor quality changed and why?
So it's two sides of the coin. Some small business owners, it's a supply side issue. Others, it's a demand side issue for our flattening of kind of the labor situation. But compensation pressures and unfilled job openings are still above the 52-year average. And so the labor market for small business is still relatively tight, especially for those industries that are labor heavy, like construction. For construction industry businesses, they're still having a really hard time in filling those positions and taking advantage of sales opportunities.
All right, Holly Wade, Executive Director of NFIB Research Center. Thank you for joining us. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right, everyone, stay with us because when we come back, we're going to hear about an acquisition by NYSE-listed manufacturing firm AT&T that is helping drive growth and innovation. Stay with us.
As we stand on the cusp of America's 250th anniversary, we're reminded of the principles that have powered the world's greatest economy.
The New York Stock Exchange is a cathedral of the capital markets, replete with rhythms and rituals that allocate resources towards socially valued uses. That story will reach a rare milestone when our republic marks its 250th year. Anniversaries of this magnitude demand more than just ceremony. They ask something of us. They invite us to reflect, to ensure that the future that we shape will prove to be worthy of the legacy that we've inherited.
And welcome back to NYSE Live. Earlier this month, NYSE-listed ITT closed its acquisition of multi-industry manufacturer SPX Flow. The deal marks a major step in advancing the company's long-term strategy of building a stronger technologies platform. Well, joining me now with more is Luca Savi. He's the CEO and president of ITT. Luca, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for having us.
Great to have you here at the New York Stock Exchange today. How important is this deal?
It's quite important. It's pivotal, I would say. Last year, in 2025, we had our Capital Markets Day, and we were communicating to our investors how we were going to shape the portfolio and our target to shift the portfolio to higher growth, higher margin businesses, and a new enterprise portfolio by 2030. As a matter of fact, with this deal, we're already there. We accelerated the reshaping 4 years ahead of plan.
Wow, that's impressive. How is this going to be integrated, and what do you see as the opportunity ahead?
Sure. The opportunity ahead is that to create a new platform for growth. So I think that one thing that we are good at ITT is to create a different platform for growth, if it is in rail, if it is with the valves business, etc. And now with SPX Flow, we acquire businesses in pumps, which is our core businesses, but also adjacencies that could become new platform for growth for ITT. Mm-hmm. When it comes to the integration, it's going to be integrated within our flow businesses, and we are quite lucky that the 4 businesses in SPX Flow are quite well run with a good, strong management team. So those management team will be the one that will run those businesses within our traditional flow business.
Mm-hmm. What does this mean for customers?
I think that for customers, I would say is at the beginning is business as usual. In terms of it's important, I have already spoken together with Bartek, the leader of this business, to few customers to ensure that the service will continue and that actually the business of SPX Flow has found a home. And then eventually the opportunity to improve the service that we deliver into the customer with more innovation, with better execution. So I think this will be good for customers as well as for our shareholders.
I want our viewers to get a better sense of your firm as well. We're sitting down here in the final month of the first quarter, March of 2026. As we look out full year, calendar year, that is, what is going to define the success of the business this year?
Sure. I think first of all is the continuous organic value creation that ITT have been able to deliver in the last few years, which is really pushed by organic revenue growth. We grew 9%, 5% for the last 3 years organically, and that was volume growth. So I think that to ensure that we continue to outperform the market, that's number one. Continue margin expansion of the legacy business, and that organic value creation needs to continue to happen in 2026 as well as the years to come. And of course, a successful integration of the SPX Flow acquisition.
What is your special sauce in the industry?
I would say that, at ITT we are really grounded into the businesses. All of our managers, our leaders, our presidents, as well as myself, are very much in the businesses, if it is on the shop floor, if it is with the customers, if it is in the market, if it is to win a deal. And I would say is really working all together, but entrenched in the business, in getting our hands dirty. Mm-hmm. We are a bunch of doers.
So to that end, let's give our viewers a better understanding, if they're unfamiliar with ITT, what exactly the business is servicing.
Sure. ITT is a diversified company, and we're designing and making engineering products. So that require a lot of design. So if you're thinking about connectors in air and defense that keep our soldiers safe in combat, or to keep our planes safe when they're flying, or you're talking about shock absorbers that keep a high-speed train on the track, or the brake pad of your car that keep you safe when you drive on the I-95, as well as a lot of products in flow like pumps, valves that keep the plant's refinery or refining operation running in an efficient way. So a lot of engineering, a lot of products that are behind the scene in everyday's life.
What brings you to the New York Stock Exchange today, in addition to creating content with us?
Yeah. Well, I think it's a great time for us to communicate about this important acquisition. You just said, it's a very important step for ITT. And so it's important to share, that we have executed this, that we closed the deal on the 2nd of March, and then we are up for integration. So more value creation coming along.
And anything more in just a few seconds that our viewers should know about that value creation?
I think that when you look at this value creation, where it's coming from, sure, you talk about organic growth, margin expansion. A lot of that comes from the way that we differentiate in the market from our competitors. And we differentiate through innovation, of course, bringing new product faster to the market. And we differentiate also through execution. So our customers are able to receive a service from us in a consistent way, which is better than what they receive from many of our competitors. And that differentiation creates value.
Congratulations on the deal, Luca. Thank you so much for joining us on NYSE Content to talk more about it. Luca's the CEO and president of ITT.
Thank you for having us, Kristen.
Have a great day.
You too. Bye.
Up next, everyone, female icon Paris Hilton was at the New York Stock Exchange yesterday to mark International Women's Day, and you'll want to hear what she had to say about her work supporting female entrepreneurs.
The New York Stock Exchange is a cathedral of the capital markets. So there are a few places more fitting to consider the future of the American financial system than this one.
At the NYSE, we applaud SEC Chairman Atkins and the entire Trump administration for working to reduce the burdens on existing public companies and soon-to-be public companies.
I believe that we will ensure that the American story, which began in many ways just steps outside, is preserved not by memory or speeches alone, but by the courage of those who are determined to chart its next chapter.
When we talk about the titans of industry and we talk about the titans of finance, there's a reason that we're all coming together still after all these years to the corner of Wall and Broad Street.
We are ringing the opening bell this morning to celebrate the launch of 6 new ETFs by direction.
We look forward to many more. I mean, today's 6, we're going to do hundreds more.
The New York Stock Exchange, the home of ETFs.
In early 2025, devastating wildfires swept through Los Angeles, destroying homes, businesses, and lives. I teamed up with the Pasadena Women's Business Center and GoFundMe.org. Together, we gave over $1 million in grants to 50 female-owned small businesses. Now I want the world to know them too.
We lost our business overnight.
When I was growing up, this was my safe space.
Their story was so inspiring to me. We can't stop making art, and I feel like the world needs more beauty.
I have a surprise for you. Jordan Child.
As an entrepreneur, I know how much it takes to build something from the ground up. Real recovery doesn't happen in a news cycle. It happens day by day, brick by brick, heart to heart. That's why I'm committed to this journey with you for the long haul.
This is Back in Business.
I love you all.
Welcome back to NYSE Live, everyone. You were just taking a sneak peek at the trailer for Back in Business, a 6-part YouTube series spotlighting Paris Hilton's work with Los Angeles-based female entrepreneurs who rebuilt their businesses using capital from Hilton's 1111 Media and GoFundMe after those devastating 2025 wildfires. Well, Hilton stopped by the New York Stock Exchange yesterday to celebrate International Women's Day. She opened up about the fund and much more. Let's take a listen to her remarks from the boardroom.
For most of history, women weren't allowed in rooms like this. We couldn't own property. We couldn't open bank accounts. We couldn't even get a credit card in our name until 1974, just a generation ago. So this moment matters. And while there is so much more work to do, when I look around this room at the leaders, entrepreneurs, advocates, and changemakers who showed up to celebrate, I feel something powerful. Momentum. I am especially honored to stand beside a woman who didn't just create momentum, she changed the direction of history. Gloria Steinem. You are a true icon and legend. Gloria, for more than 6 decades, you have challenged systems that were designed to exclude women, from politics to media to finance. When you co-founded Miss Magazine, you didn't just publish feminist voices, you legitimized them. You've made women's experiences part of the national conversation, impossible to ignore and impossible to dismiss. You helped redefine what equality meant in America: equal pay, reproductive freedom, financial independence, the right not just to sit at the table, but to build our own. Because of you, my generation didn't grow up asking if we could lead companies, control capital, or define success on our own terms. We grew up assuming we would. Over the years, I've learned what it means to bet on myself, especially when others underestimated me. But becoming a mother and finding my voice as an advocate changed my understanding of what power really means. True power isn't just building something for yourself. It's building something that lifts other women up. That's why I'm using this platform to highlight women-owned small businesses. There are more than 14 million women-owned small businesses in the United States. Together, they generate more than $2 trillion in revenue every year. They are the child care centers, the coffee shops, the bookstores, the restaurants, the heartbeat of their communities. But when disaster strikes, they are often the most vulnerable. And when these businesses close, families lose income, employees lose jobs, and communities lose something that can't easily be replaced. Last January, when fires tore through Los Angeles, I lost my home in Malibu. But what broke my heart most was watching women in my community lose the businesses they had spent decades building and dreaming of. So through my nonprofit 1111 Media Impact, in partnership with GoFundMe.org, we launched the Back in Business Fund. Together with the Pasadena Women's Business Center, we supported 50 women entrepreneurs whose businesses had been devastated by the fires. Today, 90% of those businesses we supported are back in operation. And more than 80% of the recipients are working mothers, which means we didn't just restore businesses, we helped stabilize families, and we're just getting started. Today, I'm proud to announce that the Back in Business Recovery Fund is going national. When the next disaster hits, and it will, I want us to be ready to move immediately, putting direct cash into the hands of women entrepreneurs who need it most. Because I've learned that these women don't need handouts. They need people who believe in their vision. They need flexible capital, opportunity, and support so they can rebuild what they worked so hard to create on their own terms. Today, we're also launching Back in Business, a YouTube documentary series following these incredible women as they rebuild, because their resilience and leadership deserve to be seen. To the small business owners here with us today, please stand. am so honored that you're here with us. Because of you, people can return to Altadena and find the places they love still standing. Gloria once said that dreaming is a form of planning. When I was younger, my imagination was the one thing that no one could take from me. If you know my story, you know that I was isolated in the troubled teen industry for 2 years as a teenager. Dreaming became my survival tool. I dreamed of a life where I could never be controlled again. I dreamed of building something of my own. Today, that dream has become a responsibility to help make sure that other women have the resources to build their own freedom too. Because when women support each other, even the hardest experiences can become something that helps others. This trading floor once represented a system that excluded women, but today we are not asking for access. We stand here directing capital, making strategic and bold decisions, building businesses, and creating opportunities in our local communities across this country and around the world. Gloria, it is such an honor to ring this bell with you today, and because you help show us that women can do things on our own terms, instead of the traditional brown gavel on the podium, I brought us pink bedazzled ones. Because the future of finance, leadership, and this economy is unapologetically female. Thank you to everyone who joined us today. I'm looking forward to ringing the bell and celebrating with you all afterward. Loves it.
Paris loves it. We loves it. Thanks again to Paris Hilton for joining us at the Stock Exchange yesterday, of course, to celebrate International Women's Day and Spring Forward. Well, up next, AT&T CEO John Stankey set to do the honors by ringing the opening bell to celebrate the 150th anniversary of the first phone call. You're taking a live look. Stay with us on NYSE Live.
The New York Stock Exchange is a cathedral of the capital markets. So there are a few places more fitting to consider the future of the American financial system than this one.
At the NYSE, we applaud SEC Chairman Atkins and the entire Trump administration for working to reduce the burdens on existing public companies and soon-to-be public companies.
I believe that we will ensure that the American story, which began in many ways just steps outside, is preserved not by memory or speeches alone, but by the courage of those who are determined to chart its next chapter.
When we talk about the titans of industry and we talk about the titans of finance, there's a reason that we're all coming together still after all these years to the corner of Wall and Broad Street.
We are ringing the opening bell this morning to celebrate the launch of 6 new ETFs by direction.
We look forward to many more. I mean, today's 6, we're going to do hundreds more.
The New York Stock Exchange, the home of ETFs.
Welcome back, everyone. In just a moment here, AT&T CEO John Stankey is going to ring the opening bell to celebrate 150 years since that first phone call. Alexander Graham Bell invented the telephone in 1876. His startup Bell Telephone Company was created a year later and eventually became American Telephone and Telegraph. Of course, you're taking a live look there at that opening bell podium. As the first telephone network, AT&T says they're now America's biggest fiber network. And let's take a listen. Take a look. AT&T keeping on connecting. In fact, today announcing a $250 billion investment through 2030 to improve infrastructure. I'm going to be joined by Brett Feldman on the trading floor a little bit later in the show. Of course, to talk more about that investment and what the next 150 years looks like. Well, the U.S. stock market is open for trade today. We see stocks little change, just fractionally lower after the S&P 500 did book a gain of 0.8% yesterday. Some signs of stabilization, though very much continuing to be a headline-driven situation and market. So joining me now with more, of course, on the Middle East and what it means for equities is Bob Iacchino. He's with Path Trading Partners. He's a co-founder there. Bob, great to see you this morning down there in Naples, Florida, per usual for us. What should investors make of this market today?
Well, the first thing I would say is it's a low conviction statement, but it's also an easy statement to make, is I think we've seen the high for crude oil prices. Now, again, easy statement to make because we're 34% off the spike high that we got yesterday. So again, that's not a difficult statement to make. But I think it has a lot to do with where the particular war is. The point of the war, according to President Trump, looks like it's maybe coming to an end, at least reaching a peak. But it still has a lot to do with what you want to do with those 240 vessels that are currently stranded in the straits. Iran is committing to blocking the strait for the foreseeable future. So that really is the next stage of the conflict from an economic perspective. The rest of it, I have no real opinion on. I'm not a military strategist, and I'm not an expert in the geopolitics of that area. But I do watch crude oil and trade crude oil quite a bit. And I do think we've established a new range, but I'd like to see that range about $10 lower. Looks to me like we're going to be between, say, 73 and 83. I'd more like to see it between 65 and 71. But having said that, I don't think this particular price level, where we sit right now and slightly lower, would have a sustained effect on inflation. So I'm actually starting to look for equities to buy.
Okay, interesting. And that's, in fact, what happened in the markets yesterday, right? It was a pretty dramatic scenario. We had seen Iran elect a new leader late Sunday. Futures had pointed to a pretty dramatic drop in equities that lessened early Monday morning. And then eventually, we did see the market end higher by about 0.8% for the S&P. Some comments, obviously, from President Donald Trump changing the game a bit, too, indicating that this conflict could last less than previously expected, and even at one point telling a reporter that he's thinking about taking over the Strait of Hormuz. So if you're looking to buy equities here, are there particular sectors that look attractive to you?
Well, I have two particular stocks, and they happen to be in the same sector. They're healthcare. So you saw a little bit of stability in companies like AMN Services, which is essentially a healthcare staffing company, nurses specifically. Also Way, which is Waystar Holdings. They're a healthcare software provider. So I'm not digging into the kind of sectors that have been hit hard by the conflict itself. I just think it's a falling tide sinks all boats and a rising tide lifts all boats, and the healthcare sector wasn't damaged too much. I look at some of the other stocks that I had on that didn't get damaged, that I exited because I made a profit during a falling market. One of those, for example, was a position I had in Now, NOW, which actually rallied during the drop. That's ServiceNow, by the way. That's not something I'm looking to add to. I really like that the indexes themselves held their 200-day moving average. We had been so far above those 200-day moving averages that if we got out of this conflict, or at least stabilized the conflict in a clean way, in a way that the markets perceived as clean, you could have people in the equity markets looking at this as a correction that was needed to get us off some of these elevated levels. We had stocks like Caterpillar and McDonald's, which are supposed to be defensive type stocks, at 40 and 45 PEs. That's no longer defensive. So I don't like the way that this sell-off happened because I'm against conflicts of any sort. But the fact that these sell-offs happen and the market is still kind of holding in above its 200-day moving average is encouraging to me, again, as long as we get out of the conflict cleanly.
Yeah. So I do want to talk about inflation. You've been referencing that a few times as it relates to oil prices. We are going to get a backward-looking read, that is, on inflation tomorrow with the Consumer Price Index, and then the Fed's preferred inflation gauge on Friday before a Fed decision here before the end of the month as well. What does all of this mean for the path forward for interest rates?
Well, when in recent history have you seen CPI and PCE not matter? Because as you mentioned, they're backward looking right now. The reason I say that I don't think this will be a sustained inflationary spike, this is not a pricing power scenario. In other words, if your energy costs go up, whether you deliver a product or a service, those are embedded costs. You can't try and blend that in somewhere in your cost structure. You actually have to pass some of that on. But that, very similar to tariffs, is like a one-time spike if we've seen the high. If we see crude oil continue to come off, it may be a point where it doesn't actually get passed on to the consumer. These two particular data points we're seeing do not matter. The rate cuts have been pushed out, which is why I have a small short in the Russell, which is the index that is a little bit more sensitive to rate cuts, because the cuts, if they happen, have been pushed out. But as you saw in the non-farm payrolls number, that particular set of data calls for rate cuts. But you can't do it with crude oil prices where they are.
Bob Iacchino joining us from Naples, Florida this morning. He's co-founder of Pat Trading Partners. Bob, good to see you. Thank you.
Good to see you, Kristen.
All right, everyone. Imagine being a Navy SEAL deployed on a mission over the ocean and not having access to cell towers. Well, Link Technologies is a company that helps solve problems like that with infrastructure-free communication. Its co-founder and president recently joined our Ashley Masternardi to share more. Let's take a look.
So we started Link to connect people. I once got injured skiing and wasn't found for hours because I had no self-service. So we wanted to solve real-life problems around connectivity. 90% of people in the world are non-desk workers. These are people that work in high-noise environments where communication is critical to manage tasks and manage equipment on long ranges. So examples of these are soldiers on critical missions, right? They wear equipment to protect their hearing from explosions in gunfires, but then that doesn't allow them to really communicate with each other. They can't really pick up a radio or a phone because they have their hands with massive rifles. So another example is firefighters descending from a helicopter. It's really, really loud, and they're trying to communicate with one another to coordinate that mission, and it's hard. And so these are just a couple of examples that happen in many other industries, such as construction, manufacturing, logistics, and many more. It's a $250 billion problem, and we are solving it. So what we do at Link is we've developed the most advanced local team communication system. It's software that powers any device to allow dozens of people to communicate for a range of up to a few football fields.
And you also say you provide infrastructure-free communication. What does that mean?
Let's take a couple of examples. Cell phone. You and I can be on a phone speaking to each other. Maybe we can add one more person, right? But cell phone doesn't really help us talk to 50 people, 100 people, right? It's technology that doesn't scale in terms of a group communication feature. Bluetooth is another example. You're great to connect your phone to a speaker, but it doesn't really allow to cover beyond, the size of your house, let alone a work field, right? And it doesn't scale for dozens of people either. All of these are technologies that are based in what's called a star topology. So the intelligence happens in one device in part of the system, and then is shared across the network. What we've done at Link is we've designed an architecture that is decentralized. So network intelligence takes place in every node of the system, making it more resilient because we remove the single point of failure, and that's how we can provide a solution that doesn't allow any access points, base stations, infrastructure.
Who is your core customer today?
So our customers are device manufacturers, brands that provide equipment to everyday workers in industries such as defense, law enforcement, construction, industrial space. They come to us to innovate their products and bring a solution that can help devices of any kind to have local team communications for their workspace. Examples are naturally communication equipment like headsets, communication accessories like dongles and belt packs. But we're quickly being approached to other solutions such as helmets, tools, ground vehicles, and even drones, because those are all part of what groups of people use every day to do their jobs.
And you just announced the second generation of your local team communications technology. Can you share more about that?
Sure. Yeah, we're very excited. This just launched RavenTalk. It's a second generation of our audio solution. Last week, one of our customers also launched one of their products with RavenTalk. These are going to be the first of many that are coming out this year. So we are in great momentum with the company.
What have been the key drivers to Link Technology's success so far?
We got a lot of traction early on in the defense space, and I think that really helped us. We were one of the first technologies being deployed by the U.S. government in Ukraine when the war broke, because in war, guess what? Networks are some of the first things that you lose. And so being exposed to some of the hardest use cases from the beginning, it almost helped us figure out everything else after that. So that was a big factor. And our team, our engineers have been working in wireless for decades. They've been behind the development of other standards such as Bluetooth, 5G, LTE, many others that we use every day. And so all that expertise and over 100 patents in this space, it's part of what we've been able to concentrate at Link.
I'm just so honored and so grateful to you, Lynn, for welcoming us to announce our Time Person of the Year, the Architects of AI. I want to take a moment to welcome Chris Lehane. You have been an incredible driving force, making AI accessible to everyone, and we are so glad that you are here with us today. We are focusing on the leaders and the people and the humans that are imagining and building this future that we will all be living in.
We had somebody ask us recently, why are you going out at this time of the year? The reason we're doing this is for our people. It's not about us. Our motivation for doing this transaction is to make this a better place for the next generation. We have a stewardship responsibility to our people to give them a professional and a financial opportunity that's better than what we have. And what I am very proud of is the team that we have here. This is a true partnership in every sense of the word.
Welcome back to NYSE Live, everyone. We are down here on the trading floor. You saw AT&T ring the opening bell to mark the open of equity markets today. They're on site to celebrate the 150th anniversary of the first phone call, and of course, marking that occasion by announcing earlier today a $250 billion investment in infrastructure through 2030. I'm pleased now to be joined on the floor by the company's SVP, Treasurer, and Head of Investor Relations, Brett Feldman. Brett, welcome to the program. It's great to see you.
Oh, thanks for having me back. This is really so awesome.
Yeah, of course, we last connected down there in Texas several months ago. Now, what this means today, how would you describe it and what it means for AT&T?
Well, it's really such an extraordinary anniversary to think that 150 years ago today, the first telephone call was made. I was recently reading an article about technologies that shaped the modern stock market, and the first one they put on there was the telephone. And so we're not just really celebrating 150 years of AT&T connecting people, we're actually celebrating 150 years of AT&T helping to connect investors. And so this is absolutely the perfect place for us to come and to commemorate that occasion.
Yeah, and that connectivity is continuing with this investment. What more can you share?
So the investment announcement that we had this morning is going to be $250 billion through the end of this decade. This is going to be the money that we're investing in U.S. telecommunications infrastructure. It's to build it, it's to maintain it, it's to make it secure, and to make sure that we're delivering fantastic connectivity to our customers. You know, we have been investing at the top of our industry for most of this decade. That means there's no other telecommunications company in the United States that invests as much in its network, in 5G connectivity, and in fiber. And we're really putting a stake in the ground, and we're making sure that investors understand that we're going to continue to be a leading infrastructure in U.S. connectivity really through the end of the decade.
So we talked about what that means for customers, right? They're going to get better access and connectivity for sure. What does it mean for investors?
Well, for investors, we really believe that when you invest in the best infrastructure, so fiber-based networking, 5G-based networking, you ultimately deliver the best experience to your customers. And when you do that, you ultimately end up with the most customers. And so we think that by continuing to be the leader in investment, we're ultimately going to be the leader in service revenues generated by those investments by the end of the decade. That's a commitment and an objective that we set out earlier this year, and today is just another milestone along the way.
You know, it's fascinating. We've come a long way in 150 years. I think that that is a milestone to celebrate any day. But as we pair that with, of course, the investment that AT&T announced this morning, how does that propel this company for the next 150 years?
It's really all about connecting people the way they want to be connected. You know, we have probably spent most of our lives thinking about telephone service and wireless service and internet connectivity as being different things. And that's not the way we are running our company now. Consumers have said they want to have one connectivity provider, and they want that to be the most reliable connectivity over the best networks. And really that's what we're doing. So we don't think about it as investing in 5G and fiber. We think about it investing them together and selling them together. We have one of the fastest growing bases of customers in the country that buy more than one product from us, and we expect that that's going to be a key driver of our growth through the end of the decade.
We're showing some imagery right now of your company ringing the opening bell today. We can hear the audible cheers. It's probably pretty cool to experience that, right?
There's nothing else like this. It's really a great experience.
Yeah. Of course, AT&T dual listed here at the New York Stock Exchange in NYSE, Texas as well. How has that really defined your connection with the stock exchange? Of course, having that presence, strong presence now down there in Texas as well as up here in New York.
Yeah, we were really excited to be part of the founding class of NYSE Texas. You know, we're one of the biggest companies in the state of Texas. And while today we're celebrating the 150th anniversary of the first telephone call, later this year we're actually going to be celebrating our 125th anniversary of being listed on the NYSE. And so it was really exciting to kind of get the party started early last year with the big event that we had down at AT&T Stadium with the launch of NYSE Texas.
Yeah, I got to tell you, that's an absolutely pristine stadium. Do you go there a lot when you're in Texas?
I try to.
Yeah, it is gorgeous indeed. Look, obviously, we know that there's a lot going on in 2026. This investment does include AT&T planning to hire thousands of technicians in 2026 alone. What more can you share on that front?
Yeah, we're hiring, and we think that's important. It's not just about investing in U.S. infrastructure, it's about creating great jobs. We have over 110,000 employees in the United States. That's where we were coming into the year. We're adding to that with the technicians that we are bringing on to build out this investment, and we are able to cast a wide net. You know, only 5% of the positions at AT&T actually require a college degree, and so we're really able to look across the workforce and bring in the best of the best to make sure we have the right people doing the right jobs, building the best connectivity infrastructure in the country.
I want to talk to you about Lumen as well, because AT&T recently closing a deal to buy Lumen's mass market fiber business. How does that set the company apart?
This was a really innovative deal. What we were able to do is we were able to acquire the fiber optic internet assets that serve consumers in the Lumen footprint. We are already the largest and fastest growing provider of fiber internet connectivity in the US. Lumen is growing rapidly in the AI space. They wanted to find someone who could take those assets and really grow them. And what's exciting about it is that those assets are leading quality assets, but they're underpenetrated. So just as an example, in the traditional AT&T operating regions, about 4 out of every 10 households that can get our fiber service already has it. It's only 25% in the Lumen properties. And very few of them are also AT&T wireless customers, but in our traditional markets, we have a very high percentage of fiber households that also take mobility. So what we're really doing is we are accelerating investment into those Lumen geographies so that people can finally get rid of their cable TV internet and upgrade to AT&T fiber, which is the best internet they can get, and we're going to give them a great deal if they want to take AT&T wireless as well.
Okay. Any more metrics you can provide in just how much more efficient it is?
to deliver fiber. The greatest thing about fiber is not just the speed, but it delivers the same quality and speed of connectivity both ways. Most people, when they're on the internet, are receiving data, they're streaming video, they're not sending a lot back, but that's been changing. And what's happening is that the traffic we're now sending back into the internet from our households and from our wireless phones is growing faster than the information we're receiving. And we think that with the adoption of AI tools, people uploading content, people uploading pictures and videos and working with those tools, you're going to see an explosion in traffic growth back into the internet. You really need fiber optic connectivity to do that because fiber optics have been designed from day one to handle traffic in both directions.
Brett Feldman, so interesting to speak with you as always. Congratulations again on the milestone and on what's ahead.
Thanks for having me back. It's great.
Brett Feldman there, he's SVP Treasurer and Head of Investor Relations at AT&T. Of course, happy to welcome them and their whole crew here to the New York Stock Exchange. Well, stay with us because up next on the heels of International Women's Day, the producers of Show Her the Money are going to join me down here on the floor of the Stock Exchange to talk about their film spotlighting female entrepreneurs.
I know 100 years isn't much in the New York Stock Exchange laurels, but we're very proud. First U.S. airline to reach 100. The resilience and the determination to move forward despite all odds is something that I think we're all proud of. We've had a great opportunity to celebrate this year. The power of obsessing on our customers is what makes Delta really great. And my superpower, I'd like to think, is obsessing on them, on these people, so that they can go do the job. And it's not just me, it's our leadership team in terms of making it happen.
It's a bit of a pinch me moment. I mean, everyone's here. Here we just rung the New York Stock Exchange bell. In a lot of ways, it's a dream come true. When you walk around the NYSE floor, it's just emblematic of the American dream. Look, if I can do it, others can do it too. So believe in yourself, work hard, be the best you can be every day, and it compounds.
A plan to go and change the way people fly, it is the next step. When we look back at what we promised to go do and then we go do it, it'll be the foundation of our business that builds us to the next step. And it's because of the people here and what you all did, which was enabling greatness.
Welcome back to NYSE Live, everyone. We are down here on the trading floor of the New York Stock Exchange. It's Women's History Month, and the New York Stock Exchange kicked things off with Paris Hilton ringing the closing bell yesterday for International Women's Day. Well, we are keeping that momentum going and springing forward with two filmmakers spotlighting female entrepreneurs in their new documentary. Joining me now are Catherine Gray, executive producer of this Show Her the Money film, and Marcia DeWood, the film's associate producer. Ladies, welcome.
Thank you, Kristen. Nice. Good to be here.
Yeah,
Women's History Month.
Yes. Yeah. Catherine, we like that momentum indeed. And we'll start with you. Show Her the Money launching on Amazon and Apple TV this week for Women's History Month. What can you tell us about it?
Well, our award-winning movie just got off a 100-city tour around the world, and Show Her the Money is now on Amazon and Apple TV. It is the first movie to uncover that women get only 2% of venture capital. We want people to know that, but in a fascinating storytelling way, it tells, well, what is venture capital and why is it so important that we fund women's innovations? So that's what the film is about, and we also want to talk about this big transfer of wealth that's going to women, that's going to help change this and level the playing field. Right, Marcia? Yes.
Marcia, let's talk more about that. What does that transfer of wealth look like, and what opportunities can it unlock?
Yeah, so there's about $30 trillion that's going to be transferred to women over the next several years. And by 2030, we will be controlling a lot of that wealth, which hasn't happened in the past. So we really need to make sure that women know their options and know what they can do and learn about investing and not think that it's so scary. It's something that is approachable.
Catherine, what inspired you to make this film?
I just found that the smartest people in the room that were super accomplished did not know that women got only 2% and that men get 98% of venture funding. A lot of people don't even know what venture capital is, and it really is the crux of funding what the future is, what products and services we're going to see down the road in the future. So women want to have a say-so in that. They need to be investors in it, because it is the investors that decide what are the future products. And since women have an impact of buying power of, they impact 80% of the buying decisions. Why aren't we impacting more of what is actually created? And women have so many incredible innovations. I've been around the world to over 100 cities with Show Her the Money, and every single city has such brilliant women and innovative ideas that both women and men are going to want to invest in. And so it's a very exciting topic, and Show Her the Money really uncovers the brilliance that's out there in women's innovations. Yeah.
Marcia, talk to us more about how that brilliance is on display in Show Her the Money.
Yeah, so the film actually showcases several entrepreneurs who are all funded by a female venture capitalist. And so it's really interesting and really fun to see their journey and how it all unfolds and all of the things that people do in order to try to build a business. Some people think, it's an overnight success. Well, nothing is ever an overnight success, right? So we're following their journey. We're finding out the ups, the downs that they had, and we're really interested to see how hard was it to get the funding, and then what exactly did they need to do in order to grow and scale their business.
Catherine, what has been the response to this film so far?
Every single city we've been in, from New York to LA to Milwaukee to, believe it or not, Fargo, North Dakota, Australia, New Zealand. Every time we play the film in a room full of women entrepreneurs and women investors, there is such excitement in the room to understand what venture capital is and how we can all be a part of it. It is accessible to invest in, to get funding from, to have as a career path. And so we just launched a program for women in college to learn about venture capital. This will be a game changer to teach younger women and that generation about how to build wealth through venture capital and how to fund women. And the reason we want to fund women, Marcia, you wanted to mention how investing in women makes sense because you get a better return on your dollar.
It absolutely does make sense. Lady, we got to leave it there, but we are going to listen and watch this film, Show Her the Money, for sure. Thank you so much for joining, of course, during Women's History Month.
Thank you.
All right, everyone, from A Sea of Pink, we're going to leave it right there for NYSE Live. Thank you so much for watching. We'll see you back here tomorrow morning at 9 a.m. Eastern.
Welcome to the public market.
The New York Stock Exchange is a cathedral of the capital markets. So there are a few places more fitting to consider the future of American financial system than this one.
So thrilled for this next chapter to begin today with all of you in this historic building.
The day we went public, it was the most bizarre day of my life. He said, yesterday, Shake Shack was the most beloved hamburger company in the entire country. Today, it's going to be the most reviled stock. He said, you guys are never going to grow into your $46 valuation. How many Shacks did we have 10 years ago? 31 Shacks. And did I not just hear Rob say that we're going to have 1,500 shacks? So yes, we grew into that $46. It's all because of you guys. I'm so proud of you, every one of you. You work so hard to make so many people happy, and you make your communities better. What more could you ask for?